Hello, my name is Kathy Moffat. I'm a trustee for the Orange Unified School District, and I'm standing here at Villa Park High School in front of the construction project building the new STEM Center for Villa Park High School. I recently was able to sit down with Assistant Superintendent David Rivera and Executive Director Scott Harvey to discuss the progress of the construction of this building and to discuss some of the issues that they have dealt with over the course of its construction. I hope this video will prove informative to all of you listening and watching. The school district issued a bid for the construction of the STEM Center, STEM meaning Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, complex at Villa Park High School. Can you please tell us what is the status of construction at this construction site?
Sure. The construction is delayed at the site. Right now the project is in structural steel. And there is some decking going on as well. And unfortunately, we had a subcontractor at the site in the structural steel area that had several problems. There were some deviations done. The contractor was warned, the contractor and the subcontractor were warned several times that these deviations were going to be noted, that DSA wasn't going to approve the work the way that it was being done. And they continued on doing that same work. So unfortunately, we do have some delays on the project. We are holding the contractor accountable for those delays. And I can answer any questions in regards to that in more detail, but that's the status at this point. Our hope is to get the project back on track. And because of this issue, and I told you about the substitution situation, the general contractor has substituted successfully the structural steel contractor on the project. So there is a new contractor on the project, and the reason why we had so much delay is that there were a lot of fixes that needed to be done based on those deviations that I mentioned, and the previous subcontractor just could not fix them, did not have the capabilities. But the new contractor has shown great work so far and has made great strides in just 2 to 3 weeks on the project. So we're very pleased with what we see and what we see in the future and getting back on track with what we hope this building would be.
Mr. Harvey. I'm sorry. Mr. Harvey, since the contractor has brought in another contractor for the steel, and now that work's being done, he's been on the job for a few weeks. So who's going to pay that subcontractor for any additional cost of the project?
It is the responsibility 100% of the general contractor. So they have the same contract no matter what subcontractor they bring in and what problems occur, especially if it's shown through the documentation that it's not the district's responsibility in any way that these delays happened. It's going to be very clear that the contractor will pay for whatever the previous subcontractor did and whatever the new subcontractor is doing to fix that work. Whatever that overlap is, it is not a district responsibility. It's 100% on the contractor as part of the original contract.
So that's the contractual relationship between the two of them, does not involve the district?
Correct.
So being that this is an important building, being that it's very visible to everyone, it's been very clear that that it seems like that it has taken a long time.
Yeah.
Why did it take so long? Why has it been sort of stalled?
Everything is a process, and you have to give the contractor the ability to make fixes. Even though there's problems going on, there's a process of noting all these things. So even though we noted all the things that are going wrong, we have to wait till the contractor can remedy the problem, and then we inspect it again. So
Let me ask a question
Sure.
at that point. And I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
These issues were noticed quite a while ago and on an ongoing basis.
Yes.
But we are obligated to give the contractor a chance to remedy what's going on. Is that because this is a public works project or because it is a school building subject to DSA regulations? Or is that the same process that is done in any like home construction or business building construction?
It's different. It's different because you're dealing with public works. Okay. So public works, and if people that don't know at home, public works is the state mandated way to control public projects so that you have the ability to know that it's being fairly bid. So there's a bidding process. It also lines out, how much you hold back on your retention. Retention is a 5% withholding on all of the project that is done on every single public works project. It makes sure that the contractor is going to be diligently working towards a project, because we're taking some off the top right away. So that was put into place, and that's a statute. So all these things are placed into these statutes to make sure that we're following that public works situation, that we're following the public works procedures.
So even if people have a great deal of knowledge, for example, in the construction field or in the land development field, it might not be the same landscape, if you will,
correct,
as with a school building, because of the public works regulations and the legal requirements.
Correct. So public contract code, you have to meet certain levels to even let a contractor go. And in some cases, a lot of people will go to that battle and find that they don't have enough evidence to remove a contractor, or the work that was done on a job may incorrectly, or a deviation from the plans, had really to do with a party that was outside the general contractor. So as long as they fire that person and get them off the job, then they have the ability to remedy the situation. But if they continue and keep that contractor and things still go wrong, then we can let them go, because we clearly found issues. And so that's really what happened here, is that we pushed and pushed and pushed on the general contractor. They went as far as to get the insurance company of the subcontractor involved, so that it would bring their attention to this and make it a very serious situation, like, hey, you need to get this work done or you're going to be off the job. To kind of add to that, they brought in a quality assurance person. The assurity did. So this is the insurance company, sent a quality assurance person to make sure that those fixes were being done correctly. And the quality assurance person said as well, this contractor cannot pull the weight. So that's when the contractor decided to substitute the subcontractor, and all this happening takes about 4 months when it's all said and done, 4 to 5 months of getting through that process, letting them fix things, they didn't fix them, holding them accountable, sending multiple notices. It's a very, it's like, watching paint dry sometimes, because you have to go through all these processes and procedures. But it's what we do to document these things, to make sure that they meet the public contract code and that they're legal, and that our lawyer can defend us when a contractor does have misperformance on a project.
And Mrs. Moffat, what I can add to that is, as Mr. Harvey just mentioned, this is a legal process. And with that, we have to provide, what is the remedy? Mm-hmm. And are we being reasonable in using good business practice in reaching a remedy? So we have to give the contractor ample time to remedy the situation. We have extensive documentation. The entire team has documented what the problems have been as they have surfaced. That has been clearly communicated to the contractor. We have communicated, I have sent letters that have been prepared by our attorneys, with the guidance of our attorneys, putting the contractor on notice that they were going to be held accountable for these actions. So it's very clear, and once that was escalated, then we saw some reaction from the contractor.
Yeah.
With bringing in the quality control person from the insurance company, and then finally releasing the subcontractor and having a new subcontractor assigned to the project.
Well, I think that all of these things that you mentioned are really important to the taxpayers in Orange Unified School District, to the neighbors of the high school, and just to community members who want to see a healthy community made more healthy and more beautiful and more strong because of the beautiful new high school. I think that there is a strong desire that Measure S funds be used correctly and prudently, that we have a quality building at the end of it, and then we also have to be assured that we are following all the laws and the procedures that are set up by the state of California in a way such that we stand on legal grounds if it should ever come to legal actions. So, and also, if there is something that has happened which has caused delays or other kinds of damages, quote unquote, that we are being made whole.
Yeah.
So that we don't lose because of things that should have been done better, that are not the fault of ours.
And that's part of the issue that we have, is before we can move forward, we need to make sure that we have appropriate documentation, that our attorney can support that work and protect the district, so that we have legal ground and basis for our actions. And that's part of the time process that we need to allow the contractor to provide those remedies.
And Kathy, a strong contract is always the key, right? And I believe that our district has done a really good job in the contracts portion of the work to set up things so that we're protected. Okay. So, and I think maybe that's part of your question as well, is like, how are we going to make ourselves whole here? So every contract that we get into for construction has what we call liquidated damages. And everything's tied to a schedule, a very strict schedule. There's lots of scheduling requirements. They have to do it through an electronic system that's special to construction called Rivera, and they have to turn that in monthly along with the pay applications. So that schedule is tracked throughout. And if after 21 days of being late on the project, the contractor has to turn in what we call a recovery schedule, which means as you're 21 days late, now you have to make up that 21 days somewhere and recover back to the original date. If it becomes further than that, they have to recover back to a certain date. So in this particular case, it went, because there was such a crazy situation with the subcontractor, they were not able to give us a recovery schedule. So this is why we're so far past. We would love to have been opening this building now or in a month or so, and unfortunately we can't do that. What we can do is recover monies on the contract. So every day past that, and I said 21 days, so anytime it's past the 21 days, in this case we could be upwards of 200 days, which takes us well into the spring of this year. So just so everybody knows, that's what we're looking at this point.
For completion?
Yes, but we're waiting for an acceleration schedule that may change that. But really you're looking at late spring by the time that this building is done, when it was originally around the winter time frame. So unfortunately that's the case. But we have
a monetary penalty that is being paid to us in recompense for the delay.
$3,000 a day is what we're actually can do to remedy the contract.
Right. Yeah. Now, because of the response to these issues that had to be corrected, have there been major changes in the plans that the DSA, the Division of State Architect, approved for us, or are we still working on the same plan?
We're still working on the same plan set. They wouldn't, so you're talking in terms of the deviations of the steel work? Mm-hmm. None of that was acceptable. No major deviations of the plans were approved on the steel. They asked for them, of course, but we said, no, you have to stick to the plans. And that's why, you've seen what you've seen, which is an incremental change in time. But I think hopefully you'll see that speed up much more, and you'll see a lot more occurring at the site because the plans are not being deviated anymore. They're being followed. So
let me tell you why there was no deviations in the plans. We went through a constructability review. We had an external expert review the plans, make sure that could be built, make sure it can be built within the budget that we looked at. So why are we going to compromise on our standards? We're not going to compromise.
Exactly.
So we held the contractor to what was the standards that we approved, that the board approved the bid, right, with all the components of the bid requirements, and we didn't deviate.
Yeah.
So, and we were not talking about something immaterial, we're talking about something material. Yeah. So the building's going to be built as approved by the board with all the plans that were approved by the board and by the state.
In addition to just the constructability review with our construction management, we also hire a special inspector that's DSA certified, and that inspector has to make sure that everything fire life safety on the building is done correctly, and making sure that the plans are not deviated from, meaning that they build the building exactly like the plans say. If there are any problems with that, this inspector is in charge of noting that, and that note not just only goes to the district or to the contractor, but also to DSA. It's uploaded, it has to be uploaded every week that we have our meetings. If there are any notices, if there anything that's different than what's on the plans or what's on the program for that particular project, DSA knows about it.
How frequently is this inspector on site doing inspections?
Every single day.
Every day?
They're a full-time employee, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So-
They're not an employee of the district, but it's a consultant, a company that we hire. But they have someone on site every single day when construction is going on. And the construction manager also there every single day when this is happening as well, when all the
So this
construction's going on.
inspector is a neutral party.
Correct.
We pay his salary because that's our obligation apparently, but he is not our employee. He
No.
doesn't have allegiance to us. He has allegiance to following the safety guidelines that the state puts out.
They have a licensing and certification that they put on the line every time that they take on a project. So they don't take that lightly. They're not going to roll over to accept mistakes because it's a very serious situation with school buildings. You want to make sure these are safe. So inspectors put their license and their certification on the line every day to make the right decisions and inspect these buildings the right way. Also, we have a lab of record is what it's called in the process, but it's really like a soils company or a company that has special labs that are able to test our concrete batches and make sure our steel is done correctly. And then they do certain testing and certain tolerances to make sure that everything that's on the plans also is built correctly. So an inspector, a lab of record, a construction manager, and a program manager, all those have daily interactions on the project that are above and beyond the district.
Mr. Harvey, as the building is being built, you talked about the inspectors, you talked about the lab of records. When are they conducting their test as the construction is going along?
It's ongoing. So as each phase goes on, they're doing their reviews and their inspections every single day. And so there could be 100 inspections in a day in certain cases. So they go out there and they have to go through each item and make sure each item is done before they can move on. So you can't add on drywall on framing, for example, until that framing is inspected, or for that matter, anything else. You can't go to the next step before that inspection says, this is right, this is per plan, and this is safe.
This is a big project. It's an expensive project. It represents public money, taxpayer dollars, and we want to be very careful in the expenditure of those. And also, this is going to be a building that houses students, and so we want it to be very safe and long-lasting, because our buildings, we need them to last a long time. Are there any safety issues that we have to worry about with the project as it exists right now or
No.
going forward?
No. So before they can even go further into the next phase of steel or even put the decking on, because the decking has to sit on top of, and support itself through the beams that are put in place, all that has to be vetted and we make sure that everything is safe. So that's what the inspector is doing. And that's why we haven't, you really haven't seen a whole lot happen from the mind's eye looking at the project, from over the fence, I guess it would be for you, or the community driving by, because we won't let it go further until it is safe. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing those things progress forward now. I think you even saw, if you drive by the building, there's framing on the outside bottom portion, which is something that is new this week. So all of that is because we're able to go on to the next step. And you just can't go to the next step if it's not safe, and DSA won't let you. You can't. It's not possible.
Well, that's reassuring. I don't know much about construction, but I do know that those huge steel beams are so important to the safety and the soundness of the building.
Yes.
If those huge steel beams are not doing what they're supposed to do in the way they're supposed to be doing it, then the whole building is not built on a great foundation.
That's right.
It's not part of the foundation, but it's part of the structural.
So, Mrs. Moffat, we will ensure that that building is built in accordance to the guidelines that have been established by DSA, which has the most recent, construction.
The California Building Code,
Building
2019.
Code. Yeah. So we are building that to the most current, safety level, and we will not allow it to move forward unless the contractors and all our professionals are on the same page that it's being built to that level. So the fact that didn't allow the contractor to go rogue and not comply, that was not an option, and that's been the cause of the delays.
Right.
So we're happy to be on track and to make sure that building is built to the safest standards.
And in the end, the building has to be certified by the Division of State Architect. And in order to get certified, and meaning students can be in that building for occupancy, it has to meet several requirements, not only for structural, but also for fire and life safety.
When you're in construction, you need to develop relationships. This is not you're in the office and you talk to people over the phone. You have to be on, hands-on and build these relationships. And what I've seen that I really like that has happened here is that there's been extra measures taken to make sure that we have DSA on the same page as us, that we have the architects going the extra mile, that we have the construction managers heavily involved in the program, that everyone is very much engaged, more so than any other projects that I've seen in my history, in work history. And those, when you have that recipe, that's when you have successful projects, happening. And that when you walk in, and I saw the reaction from some of our administrators and board members when they walked into Orange High and they saw the building and got emotional.
It's lovely.
That's why we do this work. So we are doing everything. I compliment Mr. Harvey for taking the extra step in developing that culture and environment to making that happen, because that's what makes a difference in getting these projects done. And then when you see the projects and you see it's not just four walls, it's magic for the kids. And it gives it a special meaning, and that's why we do this work.
We do take it on ourselves to be very involved in the process. Some districts, they leave it to the consultants. Us, we're very involved. We make sure to be invested in everything that's done here. So when we have a delay like this at Villa Park that we're talking about, it's emotional for us too, because we don't want this to happen. We want to deliver a building to this community. We want this to go very well, and so it's hard for us to sit back and say, okay, we're going to stop, we're going to pull back, and we're going to make sure this is done right, because in the end, we're just as invested, and we want to, that's why I do this. That's why I do this job, is to see those kids that came in Monday. I kind of went there and stood at a distance. I didn't go in the building because, I'm just trying to be social distance, but went up to the fence and saw our students in the pavilion of the new building at Orange. And inside, I walked by the inside and saw them in the classrooms, and it made it all worth it, because this is
the reward. That's the reward.
That's right. And the older brothers and sisters of these kids that were at the site saw this being built, and they said, someday it's going to benefit you, little brother, or you, little sister, and now it is. So that's why we do it. That's why we're passionate about it, and we take the same emotion on it as the community does. We're upset. We wanted to deliver now, but we're working together to make sure it does happen this year, and that's the goal.
That's great. So what can the people living in Villa Park, passing through Villa Park, attending the school at Villa Park, what shall we be seeing in the next weeks and months?
Good question. A lot more.
Okay.
A lot more. You're going to see the building start to become what we call dried in, which means framing, which means a lot more of the concrete on the decking. So you're going to see that metal decking I mentioned. It's going to have concrete poured on it. And you're going to see more what we call MEPs, which are the mechanical, which are the air conditioning and heating people, and electrical, and you're going to see drywall being placed. Everything kind of really amps up. Once steel is done, and as you've seen with Orange, and you will see with Canyon High School, and what you're seeing at El Medina now that we've moved past steel, is things start to happen really quickly. So you'll really start to see it. And it's hard because you're right. People sit at home or drive by the building and see nothing has happened, because they don't understand all of the processes to get to the next level. But once it does get to that level, it does go fast.
And I think the one thing you can count on that the residents can see is that we're going to be documenting, we're going to be taking pictures, so that way people can see for themselves the progress that is being made from month to month.
Yeah.
Because you are going to see significant progress over the next couple of months.
Well, that's reassuring. And I just want the people who may be watching this to know that comments that they have asked you, comments that they have asked, or questions that they have asked me, they mean a lot to us.
Yes.
And so I appreciate this conversation, and hopefully it will pull the community into closer understanding of what has gone on, what's going on now, and what they can expect in the near future for this building.
Yeah, and questions, we'll take questions, of course. We're happy to answer. The PFSO, which is the PTA, basically, for...
Parent, student, faculty organization.
Thank you, thank you. I didn't know the act, but PFSO meeting happened last month, mid last month, and Nicole Jones, who's the president, invited us to come in and meet with them and discuss some of these things.
Right.
So we couldn't go into everything because obviously there's legal matters here and we can't divulge every single piece of the information for the legal part of this. But we did, we were very transparent and explained, our frustration and the fact that we were replacing the subcontractor at that point, and that we hope for a better result moving forward and for things to go much quicker. So that's where we sit today.
That's great. I really appreciate your outreach and yours too, Dave, because when the community is able to have conversations with you, work hand in hand with you, they see that you care about their questions, that you answer the questions, that what you say is what you do, and that builds confidence in our school district and in the buildings and the projects that we're working on. So I really, really appreciate that.
Well, and I encourage, I don't want to toot our own horn, but I would say for those, look at the videos, look at, when you can tour the building at Orange, tour the building at Orange. Fred Kelly Stadium was another project that we just did. We did 3 synthetic track and fields that came out this year. We are renovating the gym at Canyon High School. We've renovated this theater so we've done a lot of things in the past, really 5 years in this district, including recarpeting and painting over 600 classrooms so that students would have a better environment. So all these things we're doing because we care about the district, because we love the district, and we want people to be have a better quality facility. The education level has always been high in this district. It's been a marker of this community for a long time. It's about time the facilities are. Exactly. And so some of these things we're able to deliver over the last 2 years have shown that we have the track record to get this done. So bear with us on Villa Park and a little bit on El Medina, and I believe that we can get through these projects very cleanly and deliver what we are supposed to deliver.
And so, not that speed is the main thing. I mean, it's important.
Yeah.
The main thing is to have a great product at the end.
Exactly. Safe and great.
But that being said, when do you expect completion? I think you said maybe sometime in late spring?
Well, we're waiting for an acceleration schedule from the contractor, which we should receive this week. But all intents and purposes, we're looking at late spring at this point, which when I say late spring, we're looking at most likely May. But I don't want to say a date for sure because I haven't seen the final schedule. So everybody asks that, well, what's the date? What's the date? We would love to give the date, but we also have to count on what the contractor can actually deliver and how far they can accelerate the project to get to the place where we feel is best.
So what's important about that process is that there needs to be a meeting of the mind.
Yeah.
So if they give us the date, right, that we're in agreement, right, with all the aspects of what those conditions, terms and conditions mean, because acceleration also could mean that they bring in more employees, or that people are working overtime, or a combination both of thereof. So we have to make sure there's a meeting of the mind of what we agree to before we announce anything, because sometimes it takes some negotiation with the contractor to make sure that we agree with what they're proposing.
And we're not paying anything towards the acceleration. So any additional labor they're bringing in, any additional support staff, that's all paid by the contractor. So they take a risk to hopefully avoid more liquidated damages by getting the project done sooner. And at the same time, they have to trust that their subcontractors are going to actually follow through.
Right. Let me ask a question. When I hear the term accelerated schedule, that doesn't mean that we're not going to be just as careful, or that there are going to be corners cut or something like
No.
that.
I mean, accelerated schedule means just exactly what Mr. Rivera said, which is more people are involved. They are able to get more done with more people.
Okay, because we want quality at every step.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like I said, there's no deviation from the quality because we can't. it's a statute in many cases, but also because we have so many people in the process to make sure that it goes well.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Dave, for taking this time. And I hope that people listening will have found some answers to questions that they might have had, or that they at least know to raise their hand, to call me, to call you, to call you.
They can email us with questions.
Exactly.
And we're open to having conversations, meeting with the different parent groups, having another dialogue like this, whatever everyone believes is the most effective to communicating the message, so that way our community stays informed.
Great. And is there information on the website that relates to some of this?
Well, there is a Villa Park Measure S website. It just will give you the status update on the building. But we plan to come out with more written communications following, this kind of portion what we're going through right now in terms of the new contractor coming on, because we want to make sure we have the trajectory of where things are going, the schedule, all of that. And I think once we have that, we're able to put out a message that's more complete, that gets us closer to this is what we're looking at for the future date of opening, because no one wants to be told, yeah, it's this date. Oh, no, check that. It's this date. It's that date. It's that date.
We need clarity of the message.
Yeah, we want to be clear in that. But we know that just know that if anyone watching this, that, late spring is our goal. It's still the goal to open up, within this school year. Even though that's very late in the school year, obviously, it's our hope to meet that goal.
Holy cow. By May, we may have a little bit more free society, because if we have vaccinations that are able to allow us to bring more students to school,
Sure.
allow us to have more activities going on at
Sure.
school, we can have a real great celebration of the opening of the STEM building.
I hope so.
Mrs. Moffat, you're going to have a problem because you're going to have to get used to going to 3 different events for the grand openings for our STEM centers
Yeah.
that are planning. We're targeting to open by the beginning of next school year.
Our hope is when students walk through the door in 2021 that they have 4 brand new buildings to walk into. And with the phase 2 right behind it happening the following, during that following school year is going to be pretty cool to see. So
It will be so impactful, and I hope, and I know the rest of the school board members feel the same way, and as you do, and Dr. Hansen, when you invest time and effort and community investment in schools, I hope that everyone feels the message that this is important. This is really important. You students are important, and we have faith in you, and we are investing in you because you have a great future ahead.
I agree.
I echo those sentiments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everybody.